What if I told you the throne of England was quietly shifting, right under everyone's eyes? What if King Charles, the man we all thought would rule until the end of his days, is now facing a battle far greater than politics, public opinion, or centuries of royal tradition? And what if the woman standing ready to take his place is not Camilla, the queen consort, but princess and the so-called forgotten daughter of the monarchy? In the corridors of Buckingham Palace, whispers have grown louder in recent months. Courtiers speak of a king weakened by illness, of a consort whose influence has waned, and of a daughter who has been waiting patiently, quietly, calculating every step, every word, and every public appearance. King Charles has been fighting a particularly aggressive form of cancer, a battle that has been kept away from the public eye for fear of destabilizing the monarchy. But now, the truth has begun to leak, and it is shaking the foundations of the royal family. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Imagine a monarch who once held the world in awe, now facing the stark reality of his mortality. Imagine the man whose every gesture was scrutinized, whose every word was analyzed, now reduced to whispered conversations behind palace doors, doctors' reports on a marble table, and urgent meetings with advisors about who should inherit the crown should the worst happen. This isn't speculation, it's reality, according to sources close to the palace. And yet, the most shocking part isn't just the king's health. It's the decision he has made, or is rumored to be making. For decades, Camilla Parker Bowles, now queen consort, has stood beside him, supporting him, enduring scrutiny, and slowly gaining public favor. But in private, trust between Charles and Camilla has fractured. The reasons are complex: political disagreements, personal clashes, and what some insiders describe as a growing fear that Camilla may not be the right person to secure the future of the monarchy. Into this vacuum steps Princess Anne, the princess who has long been overshadowed by her older brother and younger sister. Known for her no-nonsense demeanor, unwavering sense of duty, and unshakable loyalty, and has been quietly building her influence. Advisors, courtiers, and palace insiders say she is now being positioned as the logical, safe choice to step into a role of unprecedented authority if Charles can no longer govern. Now, before you dismiss this as palace gossip, consider the timing. Over the past few weeks, reports have surfaced of Charles's treatments intensifying, of sudden cancellations of public engagements, and of behind-the-scenes meetings that have left palace staff whispering in fear and anticipation. These are not ordinary rumors. They suggest that a transition of power is being quietly orchestrated, and the choice of and over Camilla is no accident. But why Anne? Why now? And what does this mean for the future of the crown? To understand, we need to go back decades, into the private life of a king who has spent his entire reign balancing duty with desire, expectation with ambition, and public duty with private fears. Charles has always been a man aware of his legacy, obsessed with the image of stability, and cautious of the unpredictable elements that could threaten the monarchy. And today, more than ever, he faces a choice. Prioritize loyalty, family bonds, or the long-term survival of the crown itself. Some sources suggest that this decision has been in the making for years, long before anyone realized the king was facing a life-threatening illness. Advisors reportedly warned that Charles's health, even when stable, would be a constant source of anxiety for the monarchy, and that preparation for succession could not wait. It is said that Charles, in his own quiet way, has been carefully observing his family, analyzing their strengths, weaknesses, and capacity for leadership. In this scrutiny, and emerged as the person most capable of safeguarding the crown's integrity. Yet the decision is far from simple. Camilla, a figure of immense public fascination, has her supporters, many of whom believe she deserves the crown by virtue of loyalty and partnership. There are whispers of tension, of late-night arguments, of moments where Charles questioned whether Camilla could handle the scrutiny, political maneuvering, and delicate diplomacy that comes with the role. Meanwhile, Anne has been building quiet alliances, demonstrating her competence, and earning the trust of key advisors, quietly, deliberately, and perhaps faster than anyone could anticipate. For the public, this might seem shocking, even unfair. After all, Camilla has been in the spotlight, performing royal duties, and gradually winning over hearts and minds. And, by contrast, has always been seen as the dutiful daughter, efficient and precise, but rarely the figure of charisma that inspires headlines. Yet in moments of crisis, insiders say, charisma alone is not enough. What the palace fears most is instability, not popularity. And in this scenario, and represents safety, reliability, and an unflinching dedication to duty. A combination that, in the eyes of the king, outweighs the emotional and personal bond he has with his consort. The timing of these revelations could not be more critical. With Charles's health reportedly worsening, with treatments becoming more intensive, and with public appearances dwindling, the question is no longer hypothetical. What happens if Charles cannot continue to rule? And if that day is near, who will be trusted to step in seamlessly, to ensure continuity, and to maintain the monarchy's reputation? For many insiders, the answer is clear: Princess Anne. But this decision is not without consequences. The palace is a delicate ecosystem of power, tradition, and personal ambition. Every move has ripple effects, every whisper can become a headline, and every decision carries weight far beyond the walls of Buckingham Palace. Charles's choice to potentially elevate and over Camilla could trigger unrest within the royal family, media frenzy, and even political scrutiny. Some say it could redefine what it means to inherit power in the modern monarchy, introducing a scenario that Britain has never faced before: a reigning monarch preparing to pass authority not to a spouse or eldest child, but to a daughter known for her sharp mind and uncompromising dedication. Imagine the moment this decision was made, or will be made. A private room, the king seated with advisors and at his side, Camilla aware of the whispers but unsure of the outcome. The tension would be palpable, the stakes unimaginable. Every word, every gesture, every glance becomes a calculated move in a game of loyalty, trust, and legacy. This is not just a story of illness or succession. It is a story of human emotion, of fear and hope, of trust and betrayal, all unfolding against the backdrop of centuries of tradition. So, what does this mean for the monarchy, for the public, and for the individuals involved? What does it say about Charles as a king, a father, and a man facing his mortality? And most importantly, how will he navigate the treacherous waters of power, expectation, and scrutiny as the potential new heir apparent in a world that may not be ready for her rise? As we dive into this story, remember, what you are about to hear has been carefully pieced together from insiders, sources, and public records. It is a tale of power, ambition, and the fragile nature of trust within one of the world's most scrutinized families. And just when you think you understand the path the monarchy is taking, the palace has a way of shocking even the most informed observers. What most of the world doesn't know is that while King Charles has been performing his public duties, smiling for cameras, attending ceremonies, and delivering speeches, he has been fighting a battle that no crown could protect him from: his own failing health. Behind the polished smiles and carefully crafted appearances, Charles's body has been waging a war against a particularly aggressive form of cancer, a condition that has been quietly escalating over months, even years, while the palace worked tirelessly to shield the public from panic and speculation. The first signs were subtle. A canceled engagement here, a private meeting that lasted longer than expected there. Courtiers whispered about unexplained fatigue, about the king appearing frilier, less energetic than in years past. But to the public, he remained the stoic figurehead of a kingdom steeped in tradition, the man who had patiently waited decades to ascend the throne, who now carried the weight of a monarchy in a world that was changing faster than ever. Yet, behind closed doors, the reality was far different. Charles's doctors reportedly detected the cancer in its early stages, but its particular aggressiveness required immediate and ongoing treatment. Court insiders say the king's regimen has been exhausting, with cycles of therapy that left him pale and weak, yet determined to maintain appearances. There were days when he could barely stand, yet he insisted on attending essential state events. There were moments when he needed to be assisted by aides just to move from room to room, but not a word leaked. For Charles, discretion was paramount. The image of stability could not be compromised, even at the expense of personal suffering. The king's struggle has been deeply private, shared only with a trusted circle, his personal physician, a few senior advisors, and Princess Anne. It is said that even Camilla, despite her close relationship, was not fully briefed on the severity of his condition. Charles's instinct, insiders reveal, has always been to control the narrative, to maintain authority, and to protect the monarchy from scandal or speculation. But controlling one's legacy becomes infinitely more complicated when faced with mortality. Imagine the weight of knowing your reign might be cut short. Imagine the nights spent in solitude, grappling with fear, yet never revealing the full truth to the people who revere you. Charles, who once spent decades preparing to rule, now faced the reality that he might not have the time, strength, or energy to see his vision through. And with this realization came a host of urgent decisions. Decisions about succession, about loyalty, and about the future of the crown. Insiders report that Charles's illness has accelerated behind-the-scenes planning for what could happen if he became too ill to govern effectively. Secret meetings with advisors, careful evaluation of heirs, and meticulous consideration of who could be trusted to maintain stability have reportedly been underway for months. This is not a monarchy operating on impulse. It is a family and institution acutely aware that perception, loyalty, and continuity are everything. What makes this situation even more fraught is the tension surrounding Camilla. Sources close to the palace claim that Charles's trust in Camilla has waned, not because of personal animosity, but because of perceived lapses in judgment and differing visions for the monarchy. Charles, battling his illness and contemplating the crown's future, reportedly questioned whether Camilla could handle the scrutiny, political pressure, and delicate diplomacy required to protect the monarchy's legacy. These doubts have only intensified as his condition has worsened. Meanwhile, Anne's role has quietly grown. She has been a constant presence at the king's side, attending critical meetings, offering counsel, and showing a level of dedication that insiders say far exceeds that of others. Her experience in navigating both public duty and private strategy has made her indispensable in this period of uncertainty. Observers note that Anne's composure, decisiveness, and unwavering loyalty have impressed even the most skeptical palace aides, positioning her as the logical choice to step in if Charles cannot continue. But there is more than strategy at play here. Charles's health has exposed vulnerabilities within the palace itself. Staff have been caught between loyalty and fear, unsure whether to prioritize transparency or discretion. Rumors have spread, quickly snuffed out by the palace communications team, yet the sense of tension has remained palpable. Every minor incident, missed appointment, brief hospital visit, or change in schedule, was scrutinized for hidden meaning, feeding speculation and anxiety both inside and outside Buckingham Palace. The emotional weight of Charles's condition cannot be overstated. Here is a man who has spent his entire life preparing for authority, who has dedicated decades to the institution he now represents, and who now faces the possibility that his time at the helm may be truncated. The realization is said to have been profoundly humbling, even frightening. Insiders describe moments of introspection, where Charles considered the legacy he will leave behind, the family he must protect, and the monarchy that depends on him. In these private moments, Anne's presence has been critical. She has reportedly spent hours discussing contingencies, advising on delicate political maneuvers, and helping the king navigate decisions that once would have seemed unthinkable. Some insiders suggest that these discussions have directly influenced Charles's thinking about succession, particularly regarding Camilla's role and Anne's potential. This period of illness and reflection has also revealed a more vulnerable side of Charles, rarely seen by the public. While he has always been regarded as composed and strategic, those close to him say that he has shown moments of doubt, fear, and even anger. He is said to have struggled with feelings of guilt, questioning whether his choices will be remembered with respect or criticized for favoring one family member over another. Yet, even in his weakened state, Charles has maintained a level of control that has left palace staff both awed and intimidated. Every decision, every word, and every gesture has been calculated to maintain authority, even as his body betrays him. He has reportedly been involved in every detail of succession planning, carefully weighing the pros and cons of each potential heir and assessing their capacity to uphold the crown's dignity in the turbulent months ahead. And this brings us to a critical question. In a monarchy where appearances are everything, where public perception can make or break a reign, and where personal loyalty intersects with political necessity, who can be trusted to carry the crown forward? For Charles, the answer appears to be, and a daughter who has waited, watched, and prepared, quietly observing the weaknesses and strengths of those around her. But the story is far from over. The king's secret battle with cancer is only one piece of a larger puzzle that includes trust, betrayal, and the delicate politics of succession. As his health worsens, every decision carries heavier weight, every conversation becomes more consequential, and every misstep could have consequences that ripple far beyond the palace walls. The world may see a stoic, dignified monarch, but behind the gilded doors of Buckingham Palace, a crisis is unfolding. A crisis that threatens to reshape the monarchy itself. Charles's illness has accelerated plans that were once hypothetical, thrusting and into a role she may not have anticipated, while simultaneously placing Camilla in a precarious position she may never have imagined. And as the king continues to grapple with his mortality, one question looms larger than all others. How will the monarchy survive the storm of secrecy, illness, and familial tension that now surrounds it? The palace, for all its grandeur, is a place of quiet battles and whispered tensions. One of the most significant, yet least understood, has been the growing distance between King Charles and Camilla. To the public, their relationship has long appeared solid. Camilla, the steadfast queen consort, supporting her husband, attending engagements, and gradually winning the hearts of the nation. But behind the palace walls, the story is far more complicated. Sources reveal a tension that has quietly intensified over months, fueled by the king's illness, differences in judgment, and a creeping sense of distrust that threatens to reshape the monarchy itself. It started subtly. Courtiers noticed that Charles increasingly kept private conversations away from Camilla. Meetings that would have once included her suddenly became exclusive to senior advisors and Princess Anne. Observers described moments of palpable unease. The king appearing reserved during public events, Camilla attempting to offer input, only to be subtly rebuffed. These were not isolated incidents. They were symptoms of a deeper strain. Why the distrust? Insiders point to a combination of personal and political factors. Camilla, while loyal and devoted, reportedly struggled to navigate the intricacies of palace politics with the subtlety Charles demanded. While she excelled at public appearances, her influence on succession decisions and delicate internal maneuvers has been questioned. Charles, already navigating the precarious waters of his worsening health, is said to have grown increasingly concerned that Camilla may not always act in the best interests of the crown or the monarchy's long-term stability. The tension escalated during private discussions regarding Charles's treatment and contingency plans. Charles reportedly confided to a small circle, expressing concern that Camilla's decisions might compromise the careful strategies he had spent years constructing. Whether this stemmed from genuine fear or the natural instinct of a man confronting mortality, the effect was the same, a subtle but unmistakable shift in trust. Camilla, for her part, reportedly sensed the cold distance but was unsure how to bridge it. Attempts to assert influence over family or palace matters were met with resistance, leaving her frustrated, isolated, and increasingly sidelined. What's particularly striking is the contrast between public perception and private reality. To the outside world, Camilla's rise has been celebrated. She has won over previously skeptical members of the public, participated in charitable initiatives, and handled state duties with grace. But public charm does not guarantee the confidence of a king confronting the end of his reign. For Charles, reliability, discretion, and alignment with his long-term vision have become paramount. Camilla, despite her public successes, appears to have fallen short of these standards in his eyes. This growing distrust created a vacuum, one that Princess Anne has quietly stepped into. Observers describe Anne's calm efficiency in managing sensitive discussions, her ability to navigate complex palace politics, and her unwavering dedication to duty. Whereas Camilla's approach has sometimes been influenced by emotion or public perception, and has been praised for her clarity, focus, and strategic thinking. In the context of Charles's illness and succession concerns, These qualities have elevated Anne's position, placing her in direct contrast to Camilla's increasingly marginalized role. Insiders recount tense moments when Camilla tried to interject during discussions about succession planning, only to be subtly cut off or redirected. Charles, aware of the delicate balance between family and institution, reportedly viewed these interactions not as personal affronts, but as indicators of who could be trusted to carry forward the crown in uncertain times. For those within the palace, the signs were clear. Camilla's influence was waning, while Anne's quietly surged. Yet the tension is not merely political, it is deeply personal. Charles and Camilla have shared decades of life together, enduring scrutiny, criticism, and the challenges of blending family and public duty. The erosion of trust in this context has been emotionally charged, filled with unspoken resentment, quiet frustrations, and moments of loneliness. Camilla, according to sources, has felt the sting of exclusion, struggling to reconcile her public position as queen consort with the private reality of being sidelined in the most critical decisions of the monarchy. Some insiders even suggest that Camilla attempted to regain influence by leveraging her public image. By engaging in high-profile charitable work, cultivating media narratives, and demonstrating competence in ceremonial duties, she sought to remind Charles and his advisors of her indispensability. But in a palace where decisions are often driven by private counsel, loyalty, and strategic acumen, public performance alone has not been enough. Charles, battling illness and weighing the future of the crown, prioritized judgment and reliability over optics and public charm. This growing divide has profound implications for the monarchy. The sidelining of Camilla creates tension not only within the immediate family, but also across the network of advisors, courtiers, and political figures who rely on stability and continuity. A queen consort without the king's full trust introduces a level of uncertainty unprecedented in modern times, raising questions about influence, decision-making, and the succession itself. Amid this tension, Anne's role has become increasingly visible behind the scenes. Sources describe her attending critical meetings, offering advice on strategy, and carefully guiding conversations in ways that reinforce the king's vision. Her presence is described as calming yet decisive, a stark contrast to the subtle uncertainty that has characterized Camilla's private role in recent months. Observers note that Anne's ascension and influence has not gone unnoticed, creating a quiet, simmering rivalry that could redefine the hierarchy of the royal family. It's important to note that this is not a simple story of favoritism or personal animosity. Charles's decisions are reportedly grounded in a combination of health realities, strategic foresight, and an unwavering commitment to the monarchy. Camilla, while devoted and competent in many respects, is seen as less capable of navigating the highly complex, high-stakes environment that the king anticipates in the near future. And, on the other hand, embodies the qualities of resilience, focus, and unflinching loyalty, attributes the king now deems essential. The palace has become a stage for subtle maneuvering. Meetings, conversations, and even casual interactions carry weight, with every gesture analyzed for hidden meaning. Insiders describe moments of tension where Camilla's attempts to assert influence were quietly countered by and strategic interventions. These were not public confrontations, but private battles fought in whispered tones and knowing glances. In this silent war, the stakes could not be higher. The future of the monarchy itself. As Charles's health continues to deteriorate, the tension between Camilla and Anne has intensified. Advisors reportedly find themselves walking a delicate line, balancing loyalty to the king, respect for Camilla, and recognition of Anne's growing authority. Every decision, from ceremonial duties to succession planning, carries the weight of potential crisis. And yet, in the midst of this turmoil, Anne has maintained a quiet confidence that many describe as unshakable, positioning her as the figure most likely to uphold the crown's integrity when the time comes. The emotional landscape is equally complex. Camilla, aware of her diminishing influence, reportedly feels both frustration and betrayal. She has dedicated decades to supporting Charles and the monarchy, yet in the critical moments of decision-making, she finds herself on the outside looking in. Charles, for his part, is caught between loyalty, practicality, and the harsh realities imposed by illness. He faces the impossible choice of prioritizing the long-term survival of the monarchy over personal relationships, knowing that any misstep could have repercussions for generations to come. And so, the palace stands at a precarious crossroads. On one side, a queen consort with decades of loyalty but a growing gap in trust. On the other, a daughter poised, prepared, and increasingly positioned to step into authority. The decisions Charles makes in the coming weeks and months could reshape the monarchy, redefine familial dynamics, and alter the course of history. The question that hangs over Buckingham Palace is stark. When the time comes, who will Charles trust to carry forward the crown? Camilla, his partner and confidant for decades, or Anne, the daughter whose quiet dedication has earned the king's confidence in ways no one else could? For decades, Princess Anne has been known as the forgotten royal, the daughter who consistently hovered in the background while her siblings, Prince Charles and Princess Diana, followed by William and Harry, captured the public imagination. She was dutiful, efficient, and almost brutally competent, qualities that earned her respect within palace walls, but rarely the limelight she might have desired. Yet in the shadows of Buckingham Palace, Anne has been quietly building influence, waiting, observing, and preparing for a moment that few outside the inner circle could even imagine. And now, sources reveal, that moment is fast approaching. What makes Anne's rise so remarkable is the contrast between perception and reality. To the public, she has often seemed aloof, distant, even cold. But insiders paint a different picture. A woman of unwavering loyalty, razor-sharp intellect, and an almost uncanny ability to navigate the complex, treacherous world of royal politics. While others rely on charisma or media image, Anne's approach is meticulous, strategic, and results-driven. Every appearance, every statement, every engagement has been measured, calculated, and leveraged to solidify her role within the monarchy, not for fame, but for survival and stability. The timing of her ascent could not be more dramatic. With King Charles's health deteriorating and Camilla increasingly sidelined due to growing distrust, Anne has emerged as the figure most capable of maintaining continuity. Courtiers and advisors reportedly find themselves relying on her judgment in matters both minor and monumental. She has been described as the calm in the storm, a steady hand guiding discussions that once might have descended into heated debate. Her ability to mediate conflicts, anticipate political implications, and act decisively has made her indispensable in a period of unprecedented uncertainty. Consider the contrast. Camilla, who commands public attention and has cultivated a carefully managed image, struggles with palace politics and decision-making behind closed doors. And, who avoids the media spotlight, excels precisely in these private arenas. Sources close to the palace note that Charles's increasing reliance on Anne is not incidental, it is strategic. He trusts her judgment implicitly, perhaps more than anyone else in the family, and increasingly views her as the person who can safeguard the monarchy when his own capacity wanes. Anne's preparation for this potential transition has been years in the making. While the world focused on scandals, marriages, and royal pageantry, she quietly honed the skills required to step into leadership if needed. She has attended countless briefings, studied protocol, and built a network of allies among advisors, diplomats, and senior palace staff. Every move she has made has reinforced a reputation for competence and loyalty, a reputation that now makes her the natural candidate for a more prominent role. The stakes of her rise are enormous. Should Charles's health continue to decline, the monarchy will face a moment of crisis unlike any in recent memory. Traditionally, succession flows predictably. The crown passes to the eldest child or the spouse, guided by centuries of precedent. But with Camilla sidelined, Charles reportedly sees Anne as the figure best equipped to manage the kingdom, navigate political uncertainty, and maintain the integrity of the royal institution. In effect, Anne is not just stepping into influence. She is preparing to assume responsibilities that could redefine the monarchy itself. And yet, Anne's ascent is not without its challenges. While her competence is beyond question, public perception remains a potential obstacle. She has never been the subject of public adulation in the way Diana was, nor has she captured the media spotlight like William or Harry. This lack of public charisma could pose difficulties if she is thrust into the spotlight suddenly. Sources suggest that and is acutely aware of this reality and has been taking careful steps to manage her image, balancing privacy with the need to be recognized as a capable future leader. Inside the palace, Anne's influence has become increasingly evident. She is reportedly consulted on sensitive matters ranging from succession planning to foreign diplomacy. Her presence in critical discussions has shifted the dynamics of decision-making, subtly undermining Camilla's role while reinforcing her own. Advisors describe her approach as calm, unflappable, and strategic, a stark contrast to the tension and uncertainty that now characterize the king's inner circle. Some insiders even claim that Anne has been preparing contingency plans, not just for her own potential rise, but for the broader stability of the monarchy. These plans reportedly address everything from public relations crises to diplomatic sensitivities, succession protocols, and internal family disputes. She has positioned herself as the linchpin of continuity, a quiet but powerful force capable of ensuring that the crown survives turbulent times without scandal or upheaval. Anne's dedication to duty has always been evident. From her early work with charities to her tireless engagement with state responsibilities, she has consistently demonstrated a commitment that goes beyond personal ambition. But now, with Charles's health worsening and the palace grappling with questions of trust and succession, her role is taking on unprecedented significance. She is no longer just a princess fulfilling ceremonial duties. She is emerging as a central figure in the future of the monarchy itself. The emotional dimension of this rise is also significant. For Anne, stepping into a role that places her above Camilla, her stepmother and longtime family figure, is complex. Sources describe moments of private reflection, where Anne balances loyalty, duty, and personal feelings with the demands of the crown. She is said to have approached the situation with a sense of inevitability, understanding that the welfare of the monarchy must take precedence over personal sentiment. Meanwhile, the palace watches closely. Advisors, courtiers, and staff are acutely aware that history is being written in real time. Every meeting, every conversation, every subtle gesture is loaded with meaning. Anne's increasing influence is shifting the balance of power within the family, quietly but irrevocably. And as Charles's condition worsens, the pressure mounts for her to assume a level of responsibility that she has been preparing for her entire life, yet may have never fully anticipated facing so soon. The public may not yet understand the magnitude of her rise. Newspapers continue to focus on Camilla, William, and Harry. Social media celebrates appearances, fashion choices, and public events. But behind the scenes, Anne is quietly orchestrating the future of the monarchy, ensuring that the crown remains in capable hands, and positioning herself as the figure the king trusts most in this critical moment. And as her influence grows, so too does the tension. Camilla, aware of the subtle shifts, reportedly grapples with frustration and disbelief. The palace becomes a chessboard of quiet maneuvering, with Anne steadily advancing, anticipating moves, and positioning herself to act decisively when the time comes. Each step she takes is measured, calculated, and deliberate, a reflection of the discipline and focus that has defined her entire life. Anne's rise is a story of patience, strategy, and timing. It is the story of a princess who, long overshadowed, has quietly prepared to assume responsibility when the stakes are highest. It is a tale of power gained not through spectacle or popularity, but through unwavering dedication, competence, and an understanding of the subtle, often invisible, forces that govern the royal family. And yet, for all her preparation, one question remains. When the moment comes, will Anne be able to navigate the full weight of the crown, the scrutiny of the public, and the inevitable backlash from those who feel their influence slipping away? The corridors of Buckingham Palace have seen centuries of history, but few moments carry the intensity and urgency that emergency succession planning demands. With King Charles's health declining faster than anyone anticipated, the palace has reportedly shifted into a state of near-crisis mode. Advisors, courtiers, and trusted family members are working around the clock, crafting contingencies, weighing options, and debating scenarios that could redefine the monarchy. And at the center of it all stands one question that has haunted the king for weeks. Who can be trusted to carry the crown forward? Sources close to the palace reveal that emergency succession planning has become a daily priority. Meetings that once might have focused on ceremonial duties or public engagements now revolve around hypothetical scenarios. What happens if Charles cannot attend state functions? Who is ready to assume leadership immediately? How will the public react if a daughter, rather than the traditional heir apparent, steps into the role? Every detail is scrutinized, every decision loaded with potential repercussions. At the heart of these discussions is Charles himself. While his health has weakened his physical presence, his mind remains sharp, calculating, and acutely aware of the stakes. Advisors describe a man grappling with both fear and determination, someone who knows that the survival of the monarchy may depend on decisions made behind closed doors in the coming weeks. He is reportedly insistent that any transition, temporary or permanent, is executed flawlessly, with minimal disruption and maximum confidence from the public and political establishment. The process is delicate. Traditionally, succession follows a clear path. The eldest son or child assumes the crown. But with Charles's condition, traditional rules are colliding with practical realities. Camilla, while queen consort, is increasingly viewed as less capable of handling the pressures of a potentially sudden transition. Her experience, public image, and loyalty are not in question, but in the private sphere of palace politics, reliability and strategic foresight have taken precedence. And that's where Anne emerges as the clear candidate. Anne's role in emergency planning is said to be extensive. She is reportedly consulted on every critical decision, from diplomatic correspondence to ceremonial arrangements, and even the minutiae of day-to-day governance in the event of Charles's incapacity. Advisors describe her as calm, methodical, and decisive, qualities that contrast sharply with the uncertainty and emotional tension surrounding Camilla's position, and is, according to insiders, the linchpin of the palace's contingency strategy. The stakes of these plans cannot be overstated. A sudden incapacitation or death of a reigning monarch is a moment of enormous risk, both for the institution and for the family. Historically, Britain has seen smooth transitions, but never under circumstances as fraught with tension and secrecy as this. Every move must be precise. Every announcement must be measured. And every action must anticipate potential fallout, from public opinion to international diplomacy. Courtiers report that the planning has involved meticulous coordination. Hospital visits, treatment schedules, private consultations, and potential public appearances are all considered with an eye toward minimizing disruption. Even the slightest delay or misstep could ignite speculation, rumor, and media frenzy. The palace cannot afford errors. Every contingency must be airtight. Anne's increasing involvement has also sparked subtle, yet tense, dynamics within the royal family. Camilla, aware that decisions are being made without her input, reportedly experiences growing frustration and concern. Other family members are said to be observing quietly, unsure where to intervene or how to assert influence. Meanwhile, Anne operates with a sense of quiet authority, balancing respect for her father, the needs of the monarchy, and the practical realities of an unprecedented succession scenario. Part of the emergency planning involves not only internal palace strategy, but also communication with government officials, diplomats, and global leaders. In a monarchy where perception is critical, the chain of command and the public messaging must be flawless. Anne's reputation for discretion and competence makes her an ideal figure to coordinate these sensitive interactions, further solidifying her role in the palace hierarchy. Sources also reveal that contingency plans extend beyond immediate succession. Scenarios include temporary delegation of duties, coordination with the Privy Council, and preparation for public appearances that might require swift adjustments. Every detail, down to seating arrangements at state functions and media briefings, is accounted for. The palace is preparing for a seamless handoff, a transition that must appear natural and unshakable, despite the underlying tension and urgency. The emotional dimension of this planning is equally significant. For Charles, decisions about succession are not just administrative, they are deeply personal. He must weigh loyalty to his wife, trust in his daughter, and the long-term stability of the monarchy. Reports suggest he agonizes over each choice, aware that missteps could fracture the institution he has dedicated his life to preserving. And the responsibility is immense. She must be ready to step into a role that may demand leadership before the public is even aware of the full situation. Meanwhile, the palace staff walks a tightrope. Advisors must balance confidentiality with the practical need to coordinate complex plans. Every staff member, from senior officials to aides, understands that their actions could have far-reaching consequences. Mistakes are not merely embarrassing. They could undermine the monarchy itself. In this environment, Anne's measured, meticulous approach stands out, earning her respect and influence among the inner circle. Yet, even with meticulous planning, uncertainty remains. Charles's health could fluctuate, treatments may have unpredictable outcomes, and public perception is a volatile factor. The palace is aware that no plan is entirely foolproof. Every strategy includes contingencies for unexpected developments, but the pressure is relentless. The monarchy is at a tipping point, and every decision made in these hidden chambers could determine its future. Insiders hint at tense conversations between Charles and a small circle of advisors, discussions that weigh the implications of sidelining Camilla, delegating authority, and preparing for public acceptance of a new leader. These are conversations laden with historical, emotional, and political weight. The question looming over Buckingham Palace is stark. Can Anne navigate the storm that is coming? Can she step into authority without triggering backlash from family, public opinion, or political observers? And can Charles ensure a smooth transition, safeguarding the monarchy he has worked decades to protect, even as his own health deteriorates? The stakes are higher than ever, and the palace operates under the shadow of urgency and secrecy. Every plan, every meeting, every word carries the potential to reshape history. And in this critical moment, one thing is clear. The decisions being made behind closed doors will echo through generations. Buckingham Palace has always been a symbol of tradition, stability, and continuity. Its walls have witnessed centuries of history, from coronations to scandals, celebrations to tragedies. But never before has the palace been under such quiet, simmering turmoil as it is today. Sources inside the royal residence describe a building buzzing with tension, fear, and uncertainty, an atmosphere that few outside can imagine, yet one that threatens to redefine the monarchy itself. The turmoil begins with the king. King Charles, battling a serious and aggressive form of cancer, has become increasingly withdrawn, relying on a small circle of trusted advisors and princess, and to navigate both his health and the future of the crown. Every day, the palace staff must anticipate his needs, adjust to last-minute changes, and manage the fragile optics of a monarch whose health is no longer guaranteed. Public appearances, once routine, now require precise coordination, with medical contingencies, media strategy, and political implications considered for every move. This uncertainty has created ripples across the palace. Courtiers and staff, trained to operate in a culture of discretion and hierarchy, are suddenly forced into a state of heightened alert. Rumors circulate in hushed whispers, canceled engagements, secretive meetings, unusual protocol changes. Every action is analyzed for meaning, every delay interpreted as a signal. The tension is almost tangible, a mix of fear, anticipation, and the pressing weight of responsibility. Camilla's position has become particularly precarious in this environment. Once secure as queen consort, she is now facing the quiet but unmistakable reality of being sidelined. Sources suggest that her input on key decisions is increasingly minimized, that her influence over succession and strategic matters is curtailed, and that her private frustrations are building. Observers describe a palace caught between loyalty to the king, respect for Camilla, and recognition of Anne's growing authority. The delicate balance is threatening to collapse. And, in contrast, has navigated the turmoil with precision. She is reportedly present for every critical discussion, offering calm, measured guidance. Her influence is both subtle and undeniable. She intervenes in moments of tension, anticipates potential conflicts, and provides the clarity that advisors say the palace desperately needs. Where others falter under stress or emotion, and thrives. making her a natural anchor in a period of chaos. The staff themselves are under enormous pressure. Every department, from household management to security to communications, must coordinate seamlessly to protect the king, maintain public appearances, and prepare for emergency succession scenarios. Mistakes are not tolerated. A single misstep could leak sensitive information, fuel media speculation, or undermine the monarchy's carefully cultivated image. Courtiers describe long nights, high-stakes meetings, and a constant sense of walking on eggshells. But it's not just logistics and protocol that fuel the palace turmoil. The emotional and psychological dimensions are just as intense. Charles's illness has forced family members and advisors to confront their own fears and loyalties. Camilla grapples with the growing distance between herself and the king, feeling the sting of exclusion and the shadow of Anne's rising influence. Other royals, from William and Harry to distant cousins, watch cautiously, unsure how much to intervene or whether to protect tradition or adapt to new realities. The tension is compounded by public perception. While Buckingham Palace maintains an image of continuity and calm, insiders report that every small incident, missed engagements, subtle shifts in protocol, or whispered rumors, has been scrutinized by media and social commentators. The palace operates under the constant pressure of perception. Any sign of weakness, discord, or instability could spark public concern, international speculation, and political scrutiny. Within this environment, decision-making has become fraught. Advisors must weigh every choice with the awareness that it may have consequences far beyond the palace walls. Who attends which meeting? Who is consulted on succession? Who is included in private discussions? Every detail becomes a potential flashpoint. And in these high-stakes calculations, Anne has emerged as a figure of calm authority, able to navigate competing interests while maintaining focus on the king's priorities. Yet the turmoil is not just about personalities or hierarchy. It's about survival. The monarchy, for all its pomp and tradition, is a fragile institution. Its legitimacy depends on perception, continuity, and the ability to adapt to crises. Charles's declining health has thrust the palace into uncharted territory, forcing a reconsideration of who can be trusted, who can lead, and how the crown can endure in the face of uncertainty. Every day is a balancing act, a negotiation between personal loyalty, institutional responsibility, and public expectation. The emotional stakes are equally high. Charles is reported to be grappling with guilt, fear, and the weight of his legacy. He must consider not only the monarchy's future, but also the feelings of those closest to him. Camilla, whose trust is faltering, and whose growing influence could be perceived as opportunistic, and his children, who are witnessing a crisis unlike any they have encountered. The human drama unfolding behind the palace doors rivals any historical narrative of power and succession. Compounding the turmoil is the uncertainty of timing. Charles's illness, though documented, remains unpredictable. Each day presents new questions. Will he be able to perform duties tomorrow? Should and assume temporary authority sooner than anticipated? How will the public react if the succession appears sudden or unplanned? These questions fuel anxiety, creating a sense of urgency and tension that permeates every level of the palace hierarchy. Sources reveal that in this environment, even minor decisions carry enormous weight. Seating arrangements at official events, the order of appearances, and who is briefed on sensitive information are all considered with surgical precision. Mistakes could trigger a cascade of problems, from media speculation to political backlash, all while the king's health remains fragile. The palace operates in a state of constant vigilance, a pressure cooker of protocol, emotion, and strategy. Amid this chaos, Anne's composure has become a stabilizing force. Observers describe her ability to anticipate problems, manage crises, and maintain clarity even under intense pressure. Where others see chaos, she sees opportunity, a chance to uphold the monarchy, safeguard her father's legacy, and demonstrate the leadership qualities that may soon be required of her. Her quiet, methodical approach contrasts sharply with the emotional turbulence surrounding her, further reinforcing her emerging role as the central figure in succession planning. And yet, turmoil often invites unexpected challenges. Camilla's awareness of her diminishing role has created subtle tension in private meetings, with courtiers reporting moments of quiet confrontation, passive resistance, and thinly veiled frustrations. Even minor disagreements now carry symbolic weight, signaling shifting alliances and the recalibration of influence within the palace. Every gesture, every word, every glance is loaded with significance, adding layers of complexity to an already volatile environment. The palace is a place of paradox, public calm, private chaos, ancient traditions, urgent modern crises, loyalty, betrayal, and ambition intertwined. In the midst of this turbulence, Anne's rise is a study in strategic patience, quiet confidence, and calculated action. She represents continuity and reliability in a palace rocked by uncertainty, illness, and subtle power struggles. The question looms larger with each passing day, as the palace grapples with hidden tensions, competing loyalties, and the shadow of the king's failing health. Who will emerge as the true steward of the crown? And when that moment arrives, will the palace be ready, or will the turmoil erupt in ways no one could anticipate? The inner sanctum of Buckingham Palace is a place where secrets are currency, and trust is the most precious commodity. Among the most guarded of these secrets is the king's hidden will and the confidential succession plan he has reportedly been drafting in the shadows of his illness. Sources indicate that this document is unlike any standard royal protocol. Meticulously crafted, layered with contingencies, and designed to ensure that the crown remains secure, even in the face of extraordinary circumstances. And at the center of this secret plan stands a revelation that could upend everything. Princess Anne. The existence of a hidden will is not surprising in itself. Monarchs have historically prepared detailed instructions for succession, estate management, and the continuity of governance. What makes this particular document extraordinary is both its timing and its implications. As Charles's health deteriorated, advisors say he became increasingly concerned that traditional succession might not adequately protect the monarchy or reflect the realities of his own judgment about who could be trusted to lead. In other words, he was ready to take unprecedented steps to ensure stability. According to insiders, the king's secret succession plan goes beyond the mere transfer of titles. It reportedly details who will assume temporary powers if he becomes incapacitated, who will manage key governmental and diplomatic interactions, and crucially, who will oversee the monarchy's day-to-day functions without risking scandal or instability. It is a plan informed by decades of experience, personal observation, and an acute awareness of human nature, especially the strengths and weaknesses of those closest to him. This is where Anne comes into sharp focus. The king's confidence in his daughter appears to have crystallized in the drafting of the will. Sources suggest that Charles deliberately positioned Anne as the primary guardian of the crown's continuity, granting her authority that traditionally would have been reserved for the heir or the queen consort. Her proven discretion, strategic acumen, and unflinching loyalty reportedly made her the clear choice in a scenario where the stakes are nothing less than the survival of the monarchy itself. Camilla's exclusion from key sections of the plan has reportedly caused tension behind the scenes. While her role as queen consort is acknowledged, her influence over critical succession decisions appears to be limited. Insiders describe a king making choices not out of personal animosity, but from calculated pragmatism, deciding that in this critical moment, reliability and strategic judgment outweigh seniority or public expectation. The implications of this are profound. And, long seen as the dutiful but secondary figure in the royal family, could emerge as the de facto authority in moments of crisis. The hidden will is said to be layered with contingencies. Charles reportedly considered multiple scenarios: temporary incapacity, extended illness, and sudden incapacitation. Each scenario includes specific instructions on delegating power, managing public messaging, and coordinating with both domestic and international authorities. The meticulousness of the plan reflects a monarch who has spent decades preparing for this exact moment, now forced by circumstance to execute his vision before illness compromises his ability to act. Part of the brilliance of the plan is its secrecy. Very few individuals are aware of its full content, and access is tightly controlled. Only the most trusted advisors, key members of the royal household, and Anne herself are reportedly privy to the entirety of the instructions. Even within the palace, speculation and whispers abound, but the full scope remains concealed. A calculated move to prevent leaks, maintain stability, and ensure that the king's wishes are executed precisely. The psychological weight of this plan on the royal family is immense. For Camilla, learning of her limited role in succession has reportedly been a bitter revelation, compounded by her awareness of Anne's increasing influence. Other family members are described as cautious observers, aware that the balance of power is shifting and that any misstep could have lasting consequences. The hidden will has effectively transformed private dynamics into a high-stakes chess game, with every participant calculating how best to navigate the emerging hierarchy. Anne's role in executing the plan is particularly critical. Sources indicate she has been involved in rehearsing contingencies, coordinating with advisors, and preparing to assume responsibilities immediately should Charles's condition worsen. Her preparation includes both ceremonial duties and substantive governance tasks, reflecting the king's insistence that the monarchy continue to function seamlessly regardless of personal circumstances. She is, in effect, being groomed to operate as a stabilizing force during a period that could otherwise descend into chaos. The stakes are enormous. Should the king's health fail before the plan is fully implemented, the monarchy risks public uncertainty, media scrutiny, and potential political complications. Charles's foresight, however, appears aimed at mitigating every conceivable risk. By positioning Anne at the center of the plan, he ensures that the crown remains in the hands of someone he trusts implicitly, someone capable of maintaining the institution's dignity while managing internal and external pressures. Insiders describe moments when Anne reviewed sections of the will and succession plan with Charles in private. These meetings, reportedly intense and highly strategic, underscore the gravity of the situation. Every decision, every clause, every contingency is designed not only to preserve authority, but to anticipate human behavior, political pressures, and public reaction. In essence, the hidden will is not just a legal document. It is a blueprint for survival under extreme circumstances. And yet, even with meticulous planning, the secret will introduce risk. Camilla's awareness of her reduced role, the potential for leaks, and the unpredictability of Charles's illness all create variables that could disrupt even the most carefully laid plans. The palace is walking a fine line between secrecy and execution, trust and tension, stability and crisis. The hidden will also raises questions about the future of tradition. By elevating Anne's authority, Charles challenges the conventional expectations of succession, blending pragmatism with familial trust. It is a bold move, one that could redefine perceptions of monarchy in the modern era and signal a shift in how royal authority is delegated in times of crisis. The palace waits with bated breath. Advisors coordinate, courtiers speculate, and family members navigate a landscape transformed by secrecy and strategy. And stands at the center, prepared to step into a role that has been decades in the making, while the world outside remains unaware of the seismic shifts occurring behind the palace walls. And as the hidden will take shape, one thing becomes crystal clear. The monarchy is on the brink of a transformation, and the choices made in these private chambers will echo for generations to come. The palace is a theater where loyalty, ambition, and secrecy collide, and in recent weeks, Camilla has become an unexpected, central character in a drama few outside the royal circle could have predicted. For decades, she has been the steadfast queen consort, supporting King Charles through public scrutiny, personal challenges, and the shifting tides of royal opinion. But as the king's health worsens and princess and quietly rises in influence, Camilla finds herself in a position she has rarely encountered, sidelined, uncertain, and desperate to assert authority before it is too late. According to insiders, Camilla's efforts to reclaim influence began subtly. Initially, she tried to reassert her role through public gestures, carefully curated appearances, charitable announcements, and visible support for the king. These moves were designed to reinforce her status as queen consort and demonstrate that she remained a central figure in both public and private life. But Charles's trust in her, already strained by his concerns over judgment and discretion, appeared unmoved. Public charm, it seemed, could not outweigh the king's private criteria for reliability and strategic insight. As her subtle maneuvers failed, Camilla reportedly turned to private intervention. Courtiers described tense meetings where she attempted to insert herself into critical discussions, from succession planning to coordination with advisors. Her approach, sources say, was a mix of persuasion and insistence, framed around decades of loyalty and her understanding of palace tradition. Yet each attempt was met with quiet resistance, careful redirection, or outright exclusion, a sign that her influence was waning even as her urgency grew. The situation reached a dramatic tipping point during a series of private consultations regarding King Charles's treatment schedule and the timing of succession contingencies. Camilla is said to have pushed for a greater role in decision-making, arguing that as queen consort, she should have a seat at the table for every critical choice. Charles, however, reportedly remained firm, emphasizing discretion, competence, and continuity over titles and public perception. His quiet but unwavering stance underscored a painful reality. Loyalty alone was no longer enough to guarantee influence. Observers note that the tension between Camilla and intensified during this period, where Camilla relied on personal appeals and public stature, and approached matters with strategic clarity, calm composure, and the unflinching confidence of someone prepared to assume responsibility. In meetings, Anne's voice carried weight that Camilla could not challenge. Subtle, authoritative, and backed by the king's growing trust. For Camilla, witnessing Anne's ascent while grappling with her own diminishing role reportedly created a mix of frustration, disbelief, and private resentment. Insiders describe moments of private confrontation, though nothing public. Courtiers whisper about glances exchanged, subtle interruptions in conversation, and tension-filled silences that speak louder than words. Camilla's attempts to assert herself were met with careful neutrality or polite redirection, leaving her increasingly isolated. Even advisors sympathetic to her situation